Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Comix Rant Mini, and I'm your host, Arvin Bautista, and in this episode we are going to talk about Rook Exodus by Geoff Johns, Jason Fabok, Brad Anderson, and Rob Lee. And this is from an imprint called Ghost Machine that's printed by Image. The curious thing about this is Ghost Machine was set up by a bunch of guys that used to do DC Comics stuff, and around the New 52 time, that's when I know of their stuff. They've been around for a while. Geoff Johns has been around before that, but this team seems reminiscent of that crew, and that's kind of why I was so excited when they announced that they do their own imprint through Image. It was their own creator-owned thing, and it would be in this whole universe that was managed by all these different groups that, you know, are basically the DC guys I know. So, Jason Fabok, Gary Frank, Brian Hitch, Geoff Johns, Francis Manapul, Brad Meltzer, Ivan Hayes, whose stuff I love from Aquaman, Peter J. Tomasi, I loved his stuff, great writer that did all sorts of I just liked his work ethic, and I loved how he could keep me entertained and keep coming back. He had this pace on doing comics that would have you keep coming back every month. And it was just great. He was always teamed up with Patrick Gleason or Doug Monk. And I just love their pairings. He writes and collaborates with other artists, but those were the ones that I remember the most. Geoff Johns has always been my favorite for the longest time. He seems to know a lot about DC stuff. And even though I am this hardcore Zack Snyder fan, Snyder Cut fan, right? I should be angry at him or something, according to what the internet say, because of how he damaged or destroyed whatever happened with DC Universe, how he sold out, all this stuff. But to be honest, I don't actually know what happened. I know stories and rumors. I don't factually know what was the motivation on anything with any of that stuff. I'm just glad I have the Zack Snyder cut, and I'm glad I can read Geoff Johns stuff. I'm kind of that guy that can separate the artists from their work. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but here at Comix Rant, I just enjoy everything. I don't really have much of knowledge about anything. So in that way, I just enjoy the comic book for what it is. And this thing I just flipped open. I know I was supposed to talk about Rook Exodus, but we do a little cut. So Ghost Machine, this issue came out as a sampler of all the titles that would come out from Ghost Machine. And Geiger is one of them. And this was all in a certain universe. And Red Coat by Brian Hitch. And these other guys, Junkyard Joe, I think, these things existed, Geiger and Junkyard Joe, and I think even, I forget what this guy's name, the Frontiersman, they all existed before. Where is he? Oh, we'll bump into him later. They all existed before, and they were working on that title, and I think Ghost Machine kind of made this bigger universe as more artists and more creatives came in. Anyway, one of the short stories in here is The Northerner. Okay, that's that guy. So, all cool concepts, but this episode's about Rook, and this is with Jason Fabok and Geoff Johns, and the idea here is it's a planet that was going to get terraformed, but for some reason or another, the corporation that was terraforming it ran out of money or something, and they just left that colony, that planet that they're trying to terraform. They have these keepers in that planet, such as Rook, and they have these special helmets that could control these creatures. Pretty cool. So this guy's swine, I believe, and he controls these like wild boars, which is awesome. Rook controls crows. And I love the artwork. I've always liked Jason Fabok's artwork. I feel like there's a lot of Brian Bolland in him with the way that he approaches these characters and how real they are, and then the rendering. It's not exactly Bolland, by the way. It's just I get like a sense that he definitely probably would like his stuff. And in any case, this is some cool stuff. So the helmet design is pretty cool for Rook. It's like a crow face, but I like that it's not like a Hawkman helmet. It doesn't, oh, okay, these are terrible examples of what I'm trying to say here. But from the side, see, you can kind of see it here. It doesn't protrude. Like the beak doesn't protrude like you would expect. And I think I like that he plays it a little sleeker because it comes out looking different. It looks pretty cool. These shoulder pads with the spikes. I'm like, wait, that's Spawn. Isn't that Spawn? That's kind of cool. That's in this design here. Let's take a look here. I think it's even on his glove. Spawn-esque. I don't think I ever noticed that until this video, because I was primarily looking at him. Oh, okay. So this is the short story that introduces Rook and that world. So it's only like 5 pages. Cool stuff. It's kind of like this post-apocalyptic-y, fallouty world where, you know, it's like a nice settlement that was sold to people, but abandoned. So now it's all cruddy. So it's kind of got this tech that is all run down, but kind of cool. Like these giant terraforming devices. There's like these giant bears there too. Everything kind of gets giant in this planet. Okay, let's switch to the first issue now. So this is Exodus. This cover is great. I believe I ordered the variant from my comic book store, but they ran out. I'm totally fine with that. I like the variant stuff as much as anybody. It's just, I'm just doing it for fun. And this is a cool, like, spread here for all the characters that are involved, right? There's the swine guy, and then there's a direwolf, mysterious ninja-like direwolf lady with the wolves that she controls. And, you know, this kind of like terraforming tech, you know, not completely slick kind of sci-fi look. I really like. The colors are great. I think it's by Rob Lee. Oh, no, sorry. I think it's Brad Anderson. Sorry. Rob Lee is the letterer. Brad Anderson doing the colors. And there's this cool thing that they do that Brad Anderson does on Jason Fabok's artwork where he plays with the atmospherics. And usually, to be honest with you, I usually don't like color-filled lines because I'm just such a stickler for the black and white ink art. But it looks great. It actually works really nice here. And I don't know if it's just, I'm biased because I used to read the books that look like this, like Jason Fabok stuff that look like this. But there's some great effects to it where it brings a lot of focus and feel without feeling too, I don't know, what's the word? Overbearing. So sometimes the colors, when they do this color fill line, sometimes it just fades out the stuff so much that the focus of whatever was intended to be there disappears. And maybe it still does, but there's some cool stuff going on here, you know, like the faded out background here makes Rook pop out. And yeah, the black and white art looks like he put like this white outline around him to make him pop out from the environment. But the colors really add a lot to the super detailed hatchwork that Jason Fabok usually has. And it's a cool, neat world that he's in. It's kind of like a Mad Maxy, like a ghost towny kind of like place. And then you get the giant bear that you have to fight off. And I believe there's a pretty sweet spread here that I can show you. We're just going to flip through this real quick about the colors, and like right here is cool. But there's some really gorgeous giant spreads here that you get to just, you know, enjoy. There's not a lot of text on it. It's not covered up by stuff. Geoff Johns knows how to pull back and work with Fabok's art and how he sets up stuff. You know, even this is like this truck car that he has is pretty cool. It's got like that Road Warrior, Blade Runner kind of feel to it. Excuse me. You know, and looks like he's gotten pretty battle damaged here. And you know, there's a good amount of pages here. I forget how much this was. I think it's like a $4 book, but it's a pretty good amount of pages. And I always like that nowadays, instead of what they used to do was to cut down the number of pages in a book. So I think it went down to like 20. So you could still keep it at $2.99. But I kind of like that now there's more pages and the cost is still at $4 or even $5. I feel like I'm okay with that if I just get more. And I think that seems to be the way things are going nowadays with comic books. Print process getting much more expensive than it used to be. Oh, here we go. So here's some of the color stuff going on. And it works really nicely with the inks that Fabok has. So even the sun and even this subtlety going on right here. He fades out a lot of these to kind of cast more focus on the crows. And it looks good. There's, I'm coming up to it. This guy's awesome. This is Swine, his buddy. He's actually a little bit more comical than the way that he would look. He looks pretty scary here. But it's like, it's Rook's buddy and they hang out, they drink beers. This guy goes and, you know, kind of likes being on this planet that has nobody in it, just hanging out with pigs. And, you know, he gives a little bit of a background here on the character, which is nice. Flashbacks are always nice, like, to kind of set up the world. So there's a lot of world building that's happening in these books, and I do like where it is. And let's see. So it's all about how he leaves the planet and goes into this one. And I kind of like the commentary of like these corporations just leaving and saying, all right, we are out. This was not working, was not making us any money. Let's get out of here. Oh, here we go. So the colors still maintain a lot of the dark values from the inks. And, you know, I like that it's still light enough that you can still see the contrast of the darks. So it's not just all just one dark area. You can still see the detail within the darks. But he also, the colors here by Brad Anderson, he color fills this area around the main focus of this image. So, you know, the bears are pretty high contrast here, right? Like the darks are still pretty solid. This is more dark. So now this pops up at you, but it fades out over here and it's a great spot. I'm not losing the detail, right? But I am gaining much more focus on Swine running away. And it's cool. You know, you got like some of these lettering is pretty fun. Reminds me of like, again, it reminds me of all the comics I used to read. This was back in the 2011 years and onwards. Apparently that's when New 52 started coming out. I think Jason Fabok may have been a little later, not really at the launch of the New 52. But, you know, this kind of lettering I like. I'm not, you know, it brings me back without being a total, like, nostalgia, play on my heartstrings. It still works with the art. And this guy is just awesome. He basically controls the giant bears. How are you going to mess with that? Swine is messed up. And this is Ursaw. Awesome. Because he's got a saw and he's, you know, like a bear guy or Ursa. Yeah. Anyway, this guy's awesome. Just totally machoed out. You know, he's got all this gear, spikes. It's great. Like, it's just so fun. It's like comics. Comics are fun, man. And I like these little bios they have at the end. They kind of give you a little, and then they give you a little taste. So the first three guys were the main guys that I liked reading on the New 52 era with Gary Frank, Brian Hitch, and Jason Fabok. And I think this is what they would refer to as like the House DC style. They don't quite look like each other, to be honest. Like, but they do share a certain, what am I trying to say? Like mentality. Like there is a lot of realism in their figures. Their characters don't look alike from each other. And I mean, Gary Frank, Fabok, and Brian Hitch. So I always didn't quite relate to people saying it was the House DC style. Because they were pretty different to me. This is the kind of art that I have always eaten up Just, and I love seeing guys that were doing mainstream stuff that I used to read now jumping off doing their own things. I'm not, I don't know if they're gonna explode and blow up as big as Superman or Batman or when they were working on Justice League and so on. But it does my heart good to see these guys just branch out and go nuts. And I think that's why I appreciate these books that are so highly detailed. It's easier to see, right? It's just whoa, that's crazy. It's that kind of comic book surprise that I love. And it's just these artists going, all right, I'm putting everything I got in here. This is my own project. And that's the stuff I've been enjoying. There's a lot of that nowadays, guys. So go out there, look for these projects. There are a ton, because even though comic book stores are having a hard time trying to pick out which series is going to be a hit for them and they're going to be able to move, because there's so many, it is actually why I'm totally enjoying American comics right now. There's just so many choices of all these different projects from all these different publishers, right? Well, this is Image, so this is an easy one, but indie publishers, just all these publishers so all I'm doing now is just enjoying and reaping the awesome, time of creativity that everybody has doing these independent comics. In any case, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Comix Rant. And I am your host, Arvin Bautista, signing off until next time.